Займайте.
Dear participants, please take your seats. We begin our workshop, Housing for IDPs, inventory. We have representatives online with us, international partners, deputies, experts, and online I see already over 600 participants. Over 600 participants. Those are representatives of local administrations, local authorities from all regions. This is why we are going to begin our work. So it's already 10:02. Dear colleagues, on the 20th of November 2004, a law was approved, number 48, initiated by a group of deputies from Temporary Commission on Protection of Rights of IDPs and other people suffered. And this law has a goal to start identification and inspection of all property which can be used for IDPs. I want to invite to a greeting word Pavlo Valerievich. He is a chair. Please, Pavlo, come over to our stage. And also Christine Elizabeth Matthew. Please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. And the greeting word, I want to invite Pavlo Frollo, a chair. He's an inspirer of this law, 48. He's the head of temporary commission of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine on the protection of property and non-property rights. Dear colleagues, dear participants, I'm happy to see you all here. I'm glad to see that we have a full room of people here. We begin very important workshop which is going to resolve a housing problem for millions of Ukrainians that suffered from Russian aggression. From the very beginning of the war, along with our team, we started to provide support not just to armed forces of Ukraine but also IDPs and Ukrainians that suffered from Russian aggression. We started to provide humanitarian support, legal consultations, financial support. We started to open up hubs. And then we created civil society IDP Ukraine. We also created a deputy association for IDPs of Ukraine. And all this work by volunteers, by separate deputies, all this work was not powerful enough. We provided support to thousands, to dozens of thousands, but this support was needed by millions. This is why we created by a parliamentary commission, a full-fledged parliamentary committee, which has become an instrument to provide support to IDPs and other people that suffered from the conflict. 4.6 we have 4.6 million of IDPs and over almost 7 million refugee Ukrainians that went abroad, and also a lot of people that remain within occupied territories. And all our work from the very beginning of the war, everything that we were able to achieve does not cover the needs of all people that suffered. And I'm talking here about the housing in the first place. You know that by the end of 2024, by estimates of Euro Commission and World Bank, UN, 2.5 million Ukrainian households fully or partially lost their housing. And take into account this number of households, we can say that at least 4 million Ukrainians, they need new housing because they lost their own housing. We didn't have such challenges since the end of World War II. The point here is that Ukrainian parliament, Ukrainian government, with our partners, we have to provide support to a population the size of Croatia or half of Austria. And when we created this commission, we understood that all our support has to solve a key problem, and the key problem is housing. Together with our team, we initiated law 4080. This law is about Ukrainian inventory of all property, all housing, which can be used for the problems with housing of IDPs. A cabinet of ministers already approved three normative acts, and this inventory has begun already. And I'm talking here about this system where IDPs who suffered can apply for housing, and all objects will be visible on interactive map, and there will be a possibility to do renovations, reconstruction, and do everything transparently and with reports, with the facts. I thank you. I want to thank our partners, IRC in the first place. Due to our cooperation, this event has become possible. I also want to thank UNHCR and especially Karolina Lincoln, representative of UNHCR, that we create the system together. Now, when this law was approved, we realized that we were lacking funds. We agreed that we would find international financing for creation of this system, because each hryvnia which is paid by our taxpayers, all of those hryvnias go for armed forces of Ukraine. This is why it is very good that we have this collaboration. UNHCR helps us to create a feasibility study for this, and we expect that all partners, international partners, will join this system, these efforts, and this will assure the fact that we will prepare all this housing, we will satisfy needs of Ukrainians in housing, and we will be able to help people. I thank you very much for your attention, and again, I thanks a lot IRC for organization of this event. Thank you, Pavlo. I also want to say that we have over 800 participants online. All regional military administration, local authorities. Therefore, dear colleagues, please wake up, and join our conversation. Please, you are going to have questions. Please ask those questions to our speakers, to our participants. This is why, please, in online, unfortunately, we have Olesa Volpe. She represents IRC. It's the organization which helped us organize this workshop. And Mrs. Olesa is now on a mission in Pokrov area. This is why she wasn't able to make it to our workshop. But I will ask our technical support to join a video, Mrs. Olesa, with a greeting word.
Very sorry I can't be with you in person today. As we speak, I'm on a field mission supporting last-mile distributions to individuals who have chosen to remain near the front lines despite the ongoing risks. My name is Alessia, and I represent the Economic Recovery and Development team at the International Rescue Committee. We're very proud to be a close partner of the Commission and MP Frolov's important work. At the heart of our mission is helping people not only survive shocks and meet their most urgent and basic needs, but also rebuild their lives with dignity. Access to housing, shelter repairs, and sustainable solutions for displaced persons and affected communities is in fact a cornerstone of our work. With the current numbers of IDPs in Ukraine and the implications of primary and secondary displacement on people's resilience and resources, the social aspect of housing is something that most consider life-saving. Having access to temporary home that is safe, equipped to welcome them, and with access to core services and infrastructure is indeed a lifeline. As political discussions increasingly turn towards recovery, we do have an opportunity and a responsibility to think critically about how to build back better and stronger. With a large number of IDPs that for now show no sign of decreasing, and future waves of returnees expected from neighbouring countries, social housing will be a pivotal component in ensuring inclusive and sustainable reconstruction, as well as recovery. I may not speak with the same eloquence as our MP Frolov, but I'm grateful to show my support and contribute to this important conversation, even from a distance. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring day. Best regards, Alessia.
Будемо ще раз дякувати команді IRC за
We are going to thank IRC once again for inventory of this mission, and at the same time, dear colleagues, so logistical issue, if anyone needs translation, we have translation online and offline. If anyone needs translation, please use earphones. Now, the main entity responsible for the 8th Ministry of Development of Communities in Ukraine, and this ministry is implementing a housing reform. You probably know what the process that we are reforming our legislation, and we are also inspecting internal resources, and it has to be done now. And the way this minister starts inventory, Deputy Minister Natalia Kozlovska is going to talk to us about this reform, about what's going on at the moment. Hello, dear colleagues. Provision of IDPs with housing is priority of our minister. Now we have over 4 million IDPs. It's over 1.5 million of families. Last year we approved the law 48, and it provides possibilities for this support. Housing which was not used before can now be provided to IDPs. This housing can be refurbished, reconstructed, and the law starts inventory of all empty space which can be used for IDPs. We are talking not only about residential buildings. We are talking about land areas, land spots, and any types of property. The ministry, with other bodies of government, created a number of the documents which are already improved by the Cabinet of Ministers, and those are documents about commission, about inspection at the level of districts, regions, and changes about all these documents were approved, and with UN agencies, with UNHCR, we worked on feasibility study, on information now requirements for real estate, transparency. At the moment, the Ministry of Development created a decree on creation of information analytical system. The document is now being prepared for submission, and also decrees allow us to start a feasibility study. That's a great deal of work. I invite all local authorities to take it responsibly, because this initiative has to start from communities, because this is a chance for us to end a situation with housing which was not finished, was not built till the end. So we are making the inventory of housing which can be used by IDPs. As you know, 98% of housing found in Ukraine is in private ownership, and we do inventory of all those housing. However, there's no pressure. We have to involve private sector as well. It has to be involved. This is why we need an information campaign from Commission on all levels, explain and get interested in this inventory. We have to. It's better than a shade market. I understand that we are going to have many problems, many challenges, inventory of this complication. We have never done that before. This is why we study international experience and Habitat for Humanity. has done similar things in other countries. We are starting projects for approbation of mechanisms and tools for classification of empty objects of real estate and investment. And we are supporting this initiative, and we are hoping for an expert and methodological support which will help us to meet and support rights of human rights. This problem is complex, and we have to have a complex approach for this. We have to provide support to all people who cannot solve this problem by themselves. We have to create conditions so that families could go back to the places where they lived before for a return of communities and return of Ukrainians from abroad. And we have to, and this new housing has to be better than it used to be before. We are going to use international and European experience, and I want to thank everyone who joined solution of all these tasks. I thank all our partners for financial support, expert support, also our parliament for organization of this very important event. I wish you a good day and very fruitful discussion at your workshop. Dear colleagues, please to ask questions and to find out more about the work of the ministry. You will have a chance later after the presentation of Natalia. She's gonna do a presentation about the situation with housing. And now I want to say that we have also a representative of UNHCR, Christina Matthews, and the goal of the law 48 is to provide people with housing and not just find empty housing in communities. Of course, digital solutions can help with that. For example, online map, which is foreseen by the law for A48. But where can we find finances for this activity? The financing from the states becomes problematic, but thanks God we receive support from other partners and including UNHCR. They joined, and about the support of UNHCR, Mrs. Christine will tell us about the UNHCR.
Дякую за ваші коментарі щодо створення соціального житла для.
And I thank the Deputy Minister and Ms. Volov for their comments as well. Housing is of importance to everyone, from international donors to the national government of Ukraine, the various partners working to address the gaps, but most importantly to the internally displaced people and all Ukrainians. Housing is also undeniably a valuable resource, which can play an important role in investment and wealth creation. Given the intersection of housing as an asset as well as a need, it is essential for all Ukrainians to have faith in the resources being directed to create the housing stock and ensure that these resources are used responsibly and for their benefit. It is also crucial for the government of Ukraine and the oblasts and Ramadas to have a centralized resource to allow them to manage and monitor the housing stock that will be developed in the years to come. As such, UNHCR is supporting the Ministry of Communities and Territories Development with the development of the Unified Information Housing Analytical System that the Deputy Minister referred to and is outlined in the Law 4080. This system intends to create a resource to identify properties for repair, to track the resources to repair them, and to allocate the properties to IDPs and other vulnerable people in need of housing. To ensure that donors, stakeholders, and the Ukrainian public have faith in this system, it is crucial that there be a supervisory or civic oversight board comprised of technical stakeholders to ensure decisions are made based on the housing strategy of Ukraine. This will then be elaborated and reflected in the system and to be applied equitably to all people. Housing resources and needs will shift over time, and having such a board comprised of experts with decisions that are communicated publicly and ensures that the process is well understood by all. UNHCR stands ready to participate, and we support the government of Ukraine as it shoulders the responsibility for housing inventory. Thank you.
Дякуємо, пані Крістіан. Дякуємо всім.
Thank you, Miss Christian. Thank you very much. That's a very great job of all team. A lot of workers in the UNHCR are engaged in the inventory, and they are very committed to this work, and they are working with the ministry, and they deserve our respect and our gratitude. Colleagues, so our event is named Housing for IDPs, Transparent Inventory and Anti-Corruption Control. It's not just formality. Every agreement counts, and millions of people need housing, and the corruption doesn't leave room. And we can't even count the real estate objects, but we must assure honesty at every stage, from accounting till providing. So we are very pleased that the workers of the anti-corruption authorities are here, and they can be involved in this work. And here there is thank you very much. We are very glad to be a member of the monitoring team, and we are very glad that we are engaged in resolving this problem. So the creating of housing stock and rebuilding and recovery of our country are crucial issues, and it's a very important vector where the corruption must be minimized, where we have to create mechanism to prevent the corruption or make it impossible. It's clear that issues relating to providing housing, inspecting housing, have always corrupt risks. Also, procurement and building for public funds, all these areas have corruption risks. But today, there are some mechanisms how to mitigate those risks, how to make these procedures transparent and open to the society. Why is it important? It is important because Ukraine has a lot of obligations and commitments, not only for the whole world, but for their own citizens. And to lose its reputation due to the corruption and mistakes is untenable. We can have a right for this. So providing anti-corruption measures and mitigating anti-corruption risks is issue number one. So the adopted law has components preventing corruption. And first of all, it's a special analytical system for inspecting real estate objects, which allows to inspect these objects and monitor them by all authorities and society. That's a very important component, because we know that everything is not transparent, has high risks. So it's very clear that this law provides for creating special commissions, coordination commissions, and inspection commissions. That's very important too, and that provides creating task force, including representatives of local governments, public organizations, and these commissions will be created by public and must work transparently. For us, we have a task to prevent these elements from neglecting. So it's very important to launch the analytical platform in time, and it's very important so the commissions start to work in time. So there are not just launch issues, but legal acts to be adopted to implement this law. And it was already mentioned there are 3 legal acts adopted by the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, and the national agency has examined these laws and provided their conclusions. And we were involved to mitigate the risks and gaps in these legal acts to provide the excellent implementation of this law. And we have to understand that our next task for all of us, not just for our agency, not just for our parliament, not just for the government, and for the law enforcement authorities, have to control the implementation of this extremely important project. That's why we are here. The national agency will continue its work relating to this issue to inspect and to examine corruption risks during the implementation of this law, and we will provide our recommendations to relevant authorities that will be decision makers in order to eradicate all these gaps. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sergei. Thank you for your work. Esteemed colleagues, Mr. Sergei, Ms. Christine, thank you. And I'm asking you to take your place in this room. Please leave with us, because we will have questions and answers sessions, and maybe our participants will want to put any questions. So please take your seats in this hall, and we will move on our agenda. So today, must be a start point of inventory process. Today, potential commission members of inspection commissions must have all answers regarding the reform process and the law 4080. To make our event informative and effective, the Special Commission's Involvement IRC prepared analytical material, property inventory, and internal resource for providing housing for IDPs. This material is available. You can use QR code, and you have these materials in English and in Ukrainian. And after the end of this event, we will send this material to your emails. And now, this material will be presented by Mr. Frolov. Thank you very much. 11 years. So you have to collect your salaries for 11 years to buy an apartment in Kiev, and in Dnipro it's 8 years, but it doesn't guarantee anything. And now imagine that you are IDP, you don't have a flat, you don't have a job, you have to pay for rent, and every month you play with life. According to my estimates, only one-fourth of the IDPs received 2-3,000 years, 2-3,000 hryvnias. That's compensation for utilities, etc. And the rest, 3.5 million. The rest of them is surviving as they can. If it's fair, it's a rhetoric question. Providing housing for everybody who lost it is extremely hard, and even these limited resources is just been stolen.
They live in dormitories without kitchens, without heating. Some people and construction businesses, they make profits on construction materials, and it's not about even these problems, but system where certain people get millions without any competition. The contracts are given to the companies with criminal shadows. I'll give you just few examples to understand how complicated the situation is. To house those IDPs, Luhansk administrations used false fraud documentation to find a uncamped camp in Kirovgrad region and bought it for 4 million hryvnias, then spends millions on renovation, documentation, also for salaries, and then 72 million hryvnias. I'm talking about 2024. And when we had our parliamentary commission, where we pinned down many problems, starting from change of windows, from connection to communication to utilities, for sustainable housing in those buildings. More to the point, terrible paths, roads, broken roads with potholes. It makes the access very complicated to this place of housing for IDPs. So the government has spent dozens, that maybe hundreds of millions of hryvnias for the housing for IDPs with roofs which are leaking, the roads which are impossible for driving, and it's for 69 persons who live there. So they spend millions per one bed, per one person. If these funds were spent for procurement of housing in Alexandria, for example, we would be able to provide additional 170 IDPs with a constant housing in a place with communications, with all utilities. A criminal case was opened, was started, and this case is being investigated now because the expenditures were immense in comparison to the goods which were provided. In one of the places in the Zhytomyr region, decision was made to build 10 modular houses for 25 million hryvnias from International Charitable Foundation. And in this, and the irony is this, because irrespectively of the source of finances, the problem is who's going to receive those costs. The contractor became a company headed with a past in a state sector. A few years back, this person was a head in regional structure responsible for infrastructure and construction. At that time, we investigate this case. The cost funds were stolen for creation of road. This case is now being in court. And in 2024, the property of this head, of this director, was confiscated. And because his company received this contract without any competition, without any tender, and extra costs, threefold higher than a market value. Our commission was also in the Rivne region, and in 2024, when there was a large, huge support from international community for solution of all these problems at the cost of regional budget, and those costs were spent for communications, for modular houses. Those houses were located close to comfortable house residential area, and they spent over a million, 12 million, they spent 12 million hryvnias for just to bring water to and other communications to the house at the time. And it's at the time that all this support was, all this work was done at the cost of our international partners. There was no tender, and the funds, the cost was without tender, was 1.5 times higher than we would have if we had a tender, if it was not a shady company who had a contract. So the situation, this housing for IDPs can be a source for illegal profit for these shady companies. We have to understand this is why we need national inventarization. Today, we have a chance to break the system and make sure that there's no corruption going on in this area. We will start investigating, we will start inspection of all housing which can be used for IDPs. Finally, we will understand what we have, where we have it, and the condition, and who owns this property. You are going to have a question probably. What is going to change for IDPs after this inventory of housing? First of all, there's going to be transparency in place. IDPs will be able to clearly see what the country, what housing stock is available in the country and we will be able to provide housing to a lot more people, and also we will be able to find this housing quicker, the housing which meets needs without panic, without chaos, and without bureaucracy. We will create one single register which will allow IDPs to see all the housing on interactive map and choose from available options without shady list and untransparent solution. In addition to this, a clear rules of housing will bring down the risks of corruption, starting from fraudulent privatization. And we will also have international supervision, and we will have systemic control for the use of housing and real reports for this housing to improve the work of central governmental bodies and international bodies. We developed an analytical report as a practical tool for a quick evaluation of housing stock. This, in 2 languages, this will help us provide housing to more IDPs, also determine the priorities for the construction and avoid corruption and duplication of resources. And all of this, you have brochures with interactive QR codes and this you will be able to see this document in electronic format. This report will help all participants on the same wave, and we will be able to start inventarizations with understanding what we have to do and how we have to do it, and also avoid mistakes which were worth time and resources for us Ukrainians. We should not stop. And speaking sincerely, housing for IDPs was very needed already yesterday. We are very much behind. This is why we initiate the ideas to give a second life for abandoned modular housing in Kirovograd region, in Kiev region, in Kharkiv region. And those modular housing were transformed into ghettos. We've sent requests to all administration and territorial communities to see a full picture, to understand how much temporary housing we have, and which we will be able to transform into those people who lived in their personal houses. We have effective collaboration with local administration, with regional administration, to make sure to speed up this process and provide those people that need our help as soon as possible. Today, we have joined all hromadas, all administrations, and I want to address all military administration, the head of all military administrations, and ask you, please, get this business under your own personal control. Now, we visited many regions. We talked to officials, we talked to IDPs, we talked to regular people in places of temporary living, in the streets. And this is going to be a marker of assessment of the quality of work of head of administration. This inventory, quality of this administration, the filling of this database is going to be criteria by which we will evaluate our work in those regions who are going to be the worst in inventory. We are going to address president to file with the request to fire those heads of administration. Now, I want to address mayors. I want to address hromadas. This inventory is an instrument to involve people into your hromadas, because international partners which help us to implement this is a guarantee that the funds will be found for reconstruction, for innovation, for construction of new housing. Please take an active part in this. I am addressing hromadas now. Take an active part. Don't hide your objects, those objects which are not in your inventory. Dormitories, in any conditions, please include all that housing in this thing, because this will ensure that every dollar, every euro, every hryvnia for reconstruction is going to be spent transparently, and we will be able to create this aggregator which will help us to increase this housing fund, housing stock. And eventually, we are talking here also about taxes, about renovation and development of your hromadas. Now, I want to address national humanitarian organizations, international organizations, charitable foundations. Please join this process. Your participation in creation of this system, which is going to be linked to all public register, we need to have an active mechanism. Your participation is the guarantee that renovation of Ukraine will be happening on the basis of transparency and effectiveness, and there will be no corruption, abuse. I want to address hromadas, communities, expert organizations, to anti-corruption activists. Please join this process as well. Your participation is the guarantee that hromadas will not hide their objects, that everything will get in our system, and the cost will be spent effectively, and we will be able to provide more support to more IDPs. I also want to announce that together with the Office of the European Council, we are planning to do international conference with international humanitarian organizations which are solving the problems with housing starting from 2014. They help people with housing starting from 2014. At this workshop, we will tell you what is being done by the government, what is done by organizations, humanitarian organizations, in order to provide exchange of information, coordination, to make sure that there's no duplication of solutions of these problems. We already had one of such events on financial support, and indeed it was very effective in the end, and we have been able to arrange this process which assures that international organizations, national organizations would be providing help, and IDPs would receive help, especially those who need this help in the first place. In the end, I want to thank all participants of this activity. Today, we are witnessing the beginning of system inventory. We are not patching the holes. On the contrary, we are developing a new system of inventory, which is going to be a chance to prevent corruption, and will help every person who lost housing. Will help for this person to get a housing. This work is all about people that survive, that live in bad housing, and they have a chance to receive housing. You will have a chance later to ask a question. I thank you very much for your attention and fruitful work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paula, for the representation of this analytical material. So please take your seat in the hall, and we are moving forward. We are going to the next presentation to know more about the procedure. I want to invite Svetlana Startseva, head of the Housing Policy Department, Ministry for Communities and Territories Development of Ukraine. Ms. Svetlana, you have the possibility to tell the representatives, to potential members of the commission. We have more than 1,000 participants online. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Hey. There was no sound. So I'm going to talking about the improvements and assistance to the IDPs to find housing and to find possible resources which are allocated on the territory, which are not used but may be used to solve the problem regarding the housing. So the adoption of the law and all legal acts are crucial. I don't want to emphasize it because the previous speakers have already done it. It's very important to find internal resources and to accommodate funds to reconstruct, to re-equip, and solve housing issues. So I'm going to practical issues which must take place in regional administrations, district administrations, and I'm going to talk about the work already done. So the adopted legal acts, resolution of the cabinet ministers of Ukraine, which regulate this procedure. Typical provisions pushed this work on site. So at present, all regional administrations have already reported about the creation of the relevant commissions at regional and district levels. So as for yesterday, all regional administrations created the relevant commissions. 2 regional administrations are not ready yet. They have just submitted these provisions. And as for district administrations, of 82 district administrations provided the information that just 10 district administrations continue its work. So the first stage is over. You know that the Property Fund of Ukraine has done previous work regarding the list of real estate objects which are located in the relevant territorial communities, and these list registers have already been submitted to the regional administration for the further work to analyze this real estate objects. And for today, these registers and list must be already processed, and necessary events must be defined. Who creates these commissions? Considering the fact that not only officials and executors of this work are involved, but also public representatives, international partners, I will just enumerate main events to be done during the implementation of this law. So coordination commissions must be created by Kiev administration and regional administration. Inspection commissions are created by district administrations. The goal, first commission, is to maintain records on the real estate objects. Inspection commissions is to inspect real estate objects. These commissions are ensured, their work is ensured on voluntary basis. And it's very important. These organizational measures are very important. These commissions include, coordination commissions includes 5, no more than 15 persons. Inspection commissions includes 5, no more than 15 persons. And commissions must include chairperson, deputy chairperson, secretary, and other members. The inspection commissions includes representatives of territorial authorities, fire brigades, healthcare, sanitary authorities, urban and architectural authorities, land authorities. So you have to understand that the relevant commission must conclude if this real estate objects may be or may not be used in the future. And at the level of regional administration, also representatives of utility authorities, urban architecture authorities, research authorities must be included in these commissions, because there are a lot of objects which have not been used as educational institutions. So that's why we have adopted the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine to simplify the rent procedure for educational institutions. So the representatives of authorities, local authorities, experts, and representatives of public associations may be included. There are also the representatives of the charitable foundations and international donors, so they could provide technical recommendations and provide their assistance. The inspection commissions must include the representatives of state authorities and also the representatives of the property owners. If you read this law, I want to emphasize that the property of any form may be used, and legal grounds for doing anything with these real objects must be agreed by the property owner. It doesn't mean what kind of property it deals with. One of the most important issues is that commissions must include certificates, certification experts, or enterprise and institutions who has these experts and who, according to the law, is entitled to provide relevant conclusions. So the main goals of the commissions is to make decisions. Coordination Commission is to make decisions to inspect real estate objects. And please, next slide. So we have formed a schedule. 2 slides. I need 2 slides. Like this. So the main goal of the commissions is to make decisions, and within 5 days we are waiting that these commissions will start their work and they will establish lists and they will take decisions regarding the inspections of real estate objects, regarding the terms and, for example, which real estate objects are the nearest. According to the previous estimates provided by the Property Fund of Ukraine, there are technical characteristics, amount of square meters, technical conditions. So Coordination Commission must establish the priorities. Which real estate objects must be inspected at first, so they could take decisions as soon as possible. One of the key issue is rights. The Coordination Commission is entitled to conduct meetings, to hear the information from the representatives of the state authorities and local governments, enterprises, institutions, organizations, and experts and appraisers, to take relevant decisions, to ask some questions, to ask documents, and receive documents related to these real estate objects, and to form temporary task force for their purpose. Inspection Commission is also entitled to conduct meetings, to hear some experts, to do any other task which is important for its mission. But the most important mission is to issue an act over use of this real estate object in the future. As I have already said, the commissions must have been done right now, and according to the calendar, to the schedule, we must have reporters from the territorial communities. Then Coordination Commission, roadmap as we call it. This commission collects information about the real estate objects, submits requests to the relevant authorities, receive information from the owners, from the owners of private properties. So, according to the law, upon agreement of the property owner. Across the Ukraine, there are a lot of property objects which are private but not used, and the law doesn't mention how can we use it, and we need some amendments to the law. But to take relevant legal acts or management acts, we need to analyze first what we have for today. When we see 30% private sector, So we need to create methodology for private owners, how they can use their property, the conditions for rent. So we need to work on this, that's for sure. But this inventory will push the procedure. How can we use these real estate objects? Yes, there are cases when there are real estate objects, there are buildings, but land plots are not in property. Then we have problems with the utilities. Then energy tariffs, water tariffs, and other utility tariffs, which are commercial for real estate object and are different for residential object. And how can we use this real estate objects? How can we use non-residential property as residential property? And we will need resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine. And how can we use these promises in the future? Most of them are temporary promises. These are temporary living decisions. If this object may be used as a residential object with relevant standards, it's one procedure. If this promise will be used as temporary, it's another procedure. So, next slide, please. Coordination Commission, within 1 month, will take decision about the inspection of a real estate object, including the establishment of terms of this inspection, and they will report about this decision within 5 days. So, Coordination Commission will report in writing the owners of this real estate object about decision regarding the inspection within 10 working days as of the day of the adoption of this decision. So the Inspection Commission will inspect real estate objects to establish the fact that this object is used, may be re-equipped for IDPs, and to see if it complies with the standards for IDPs as regulated by the resolution 9030. So the Coordination Commission is planning its meetings, receive technical documentation, and create act as a result of if we use or we cannot use these promises. So this inventory must be conducted in order to attract investments and to inform the relevant territorial community, territorial organizations, IDPs, to coordinate efforts. Yes, today there is a kind of chaos in identifying real estate objects, and there is no whole mechanism. So international partners, thank you to the UNHCR, to the Habitat Humanity, to Charities, the UN Habitat. They have already done great work in the territorial communities, but These works were conducted independently, just by international organizations, without coordination with the authorities. But to estimate funds, to coordinate humanitarian aid, for this purpose, it's necessary to create this analytic informational system. So we can see how many resources we have, what amount of funds we need, what kind of experts we need, how to distribute it, where IDPs are located, what they need, because conditionally IDPs are divided into 3 groups: who can pay, who have average incomes, but who don't have jobs but need residence, and there is a group of people who really need social protection, providing them housing or providing additional social services. So the use of this resource is needed for taking decisions. So building new social housing takes 18 months, no less. So rent in private sector, you know the situation. So property owners don't want to use transparent mechanism to give their houses for rent. So thank you to the Ministry of Social Policy. It issued a resolution about the subsidiary for rent, but owners do not inform about the possibility to give their apartments for rent. So we continue. Inspection commissions give inspection act with copies to the coordination commission within 10 working days as of the date of its signature, and the information about the inspection is entered into analytical information system. So thanks to our negotiations, thanks to the UNHCR, who have already known the winners of tenders, and the working group has been working at the level of ministry, and they are working on the feasibility study. And this system must, as Pavlo Valerievich said, must be coordinated with different registers, land plots registers and property registers. So there is no use in creating system for the system. We need to create information resource that will work and will adopt all information Ukrainian system. That's a very important technical procedure. So the working group has been working already on the feasibility study. So this system must become one of the most important component of the housing system and across Ukraine. But there are some problems. So commissions may start their work, they create acts, they preserve information to gain access to this information, to generalize this information. So the ministry is working on the technical issues, and we're working on the Google documents, who will have the final data, and I think that next week we will have already finished. We will have already finished with these Google documents. We will know who will have access to this Google document, who will enter data, so that we see the list of real estate objects, needs, possibilities, how many people can be replaced there, and we will be able to work with the international partners. Next problem is the assistance of technical experts who have possibilities to provide technical expertise, technical inventory, to assess land plots documents. And here we want to ask our international partners who have already approved, give their approval, and they would like to help us to involve appropriate experts and assistants. So let's continue. I would not repeat, so the open access to this information must be provided to the IDPs, including the location of real estate objects and their technical conditions, and applications of IDPs for housing. So I just mention the events that are taking place right now, and I mentioned about our plans. So we want to organize a chat board to establish information campaign on all available resources, information about the start of work of commissions, first real estate objects. First conclusions will be able on the website of the Ministry of Communities, and any possible information resources to show so that work could be done as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you very much, Svetlana Mikhailovna. You will have possibility to put any questions to the representative of the ministry. I ask Svetlana Mikhailovna to take her seat in the hall.
And we are moving to the next part. I want to tell you a little bit more about peculiarities of inventarization and inventory, and then we're going to have questions and answers. Now, what is the price of renovation of one small apartment for one IDP in Ukraine? 750,000 hryvnias. This is in the village, in Ivano-Frankivsk region. That's the amount of money that one international organization spent for renovation of 4 apartments. But there were also hidden expenditures, those hidden expenditures that no one talks about. I'm talking the expenditures for the search of just housing, and that's what international organizations do. Now, who is the owner of the apartment? What is the technical condition of this apartment? It takes weeks, months of calls, of letters, of visits, and all of this is done by international organization, and in the result to $240,000 just for preparatory work for renovation of one object. It's double that, it's twice as much as the renovation itself. So these funds, as you see, are spent for detective work, for the work which has to be done by the government. And sometimes 4 million hryvnias is spent for renovation of one house. A family of IDPs at the threshold, almost ready to move in, and then all of a sudden a local government shows up, and they say, give us $50,000 more for renovation of administrative building. Otherwise, this housing we will not let a IDP family move in. It's not an argument, it's a blackmail, and these blackmails take place here and there over and over again. International organizations who want to help Ukraine spend millions and lots of time just to find the building that they could renovate for IDPs. And then in the end, they face corruption, the wall of corruption in the places where they recently I tried to analyze how much of state property is present in documents. For this, I was checking just court documents, and manually I sent requests for public information to all courts of Ukraine. And you know what? One of the judges, and it's not a rare case, refused to give me that information without me paying him for this to his account. So look, just imagine, I am addressing courts of Ukraine. It has to be open, transparent, official. This information all has to be. And I'll get this, and that I will give you the information only if you pay me for this. So for me to understand what housing is available, I have to pay someone for that. And we are talking about the system and information which has to be available, which has to be transparent. So it's the things we are discussing today. It's a foundation. It's about real access to the house, not in theory, but in real life. And today I want to move to concrete things, to those questions which people do not always ask about, but it's about administrations. As we know, commissions of inspection were created. So let's be honest with each other. The first question that all Hromadas say, what was going to be the composition of this commission for inspection of housing for the IDPs? It has to be representative of district administration, representatives of architecture, from local authorities or from administrations, specialists on land issues, members from 5 to 15 members, and they all work as official government officials. They receive their salary, and also members of commission can volunteer for this work without any payment. People ask why they're supposed to work for free. Well, first of all, it's not for free. They have their salaries. And the second, we have to understand that the motivation is a professional ethics and obligation and desire to be a part of real solution. So commissions should work in a partnership with government and Hromad. We had one question online. By the way, we're going to have a session, question and answer. So please ask question. Now I want to address one question. Can a IDP be a member of this commission? And the answer is yes. IDPs, please join those commissions. IDPs, please make sure you join those commissions. Commissions we are going, and commissions also, you make sure you have IDPs and representative of local Hromadas. Now, what is the responsibility of members of commission? Okay, every member of commission is personally responsible for each signed act of inspection. It's an official obligation for each of this matter. When the commission goes to the object, all members have to be present there, have to objectively assess the condition of the housing, assess all factors of safety, and they should honestly and transparently present all problems. If they hide something, it's a criminal responsibility according to our legislation. For example, faking of documents or abuse of power. It's criminal responsibility. Now, members of commission can also their decisions can be appealed. Their decision. Next question: how can we do the technical inspection or feasibility study if there's no funds for that in the budget? Now, to do this inspection or inventory and a technical inspection of those housing should be done. Now, what funds should be used for that? Now we have to talk about two stages here. The first stage we call it a cabinet inspection. It's a checking of documents, or also a visit of a commission, and this is done for free of charge. It's their professional obligation. But if there's a suspicion that there is a problem with housing, or then additional technical examination should be appointed. This should be conducted by architect, the certified specialist with proper license. And this already a service which is paid for. Now we understand that in communities we don't have officials with a appropriate obligation. So first it has to be financed by state budget, but we also understand that local budgets don't necessarily have these funds, and in this case donor organization and donor costs and international costs should be attracted for inspection of technical. This is why this inspection is done with the support of technical partners, and our task is to build effectiveness, transparency, and effective interaction. Now we have the desire to help, but we don't have a system and we don't have a transparency, and we have to need to have a proper accountability, because while we spend thousands of dollars for just understanding whose property is this, people do not have their houses and kids are born in the street. This is why we are not just talking about inventory today. We are talking about change of culture, change of consciousness. We have to move from chaos to clarity. We have a chance to do this, and it's not about money that someone is going to give us. It's about millions of decisions, millions of solutions we can do ourselves. And if we honestly today recognize recognize the problem that we have, it's a half of the solution. And now is the time to act. And I propose to start this activity with questions. Do we have questions in the room? I think Pavlo Valerievich should also join this question, because he's the author of this law. And Svetlana Mikhailовna Startseva, please come up to the stage, come back to the stage, because I have a question to Pavlo Frollo. And first of all, I would like to thank him. I'm Miroslav. I'm representative of Association of IDPs. I want to thank him that when in December we voted for this law, he and all his fraction, all deputies, voted for, they pushed the green button, and this law is mostly about rights of the people that lost their housing at the territory which is under Ukrainian control, under control of Ukraine. Now, the law says that people can receive compensation for the loss of their houses. I want to thank Pavlo once again. He was the author and he was the inspirer. However, unfortunately, this law lies on the table of a president for half a year, and the president hasn't signed it yet. So this law is on the table of the president. I hope Pavlo will be able to remind the president about this law. Now, I also understand that the law 48 is mostly about temporary housing. Is it going to be about temporary housing, or is it going to be a long-term story? So this is the question. Thank you. It's a good question. Look, the law is not signed yet. The parliament has done everything it could do, and it says that over $3 million are necessary for implementation of this law. Now, for the solution of this law, me and my colleagues developed a new bill of law, 1336. It is a systematic bill of law, and it provides solutions to the program which is called e-recovery. And we are talking about the however, it's this law doesn't cover, for example, residents of Donetsk, and it also relates to ruined housing. And this bill of law provides for using all modern technologies such as satellites, drones. If international organizations are going to have access to those territories, they will be able to document the destroyed housing, and Ukrainians will be able to receive housing certificates. As for the housing which has not been destroyed, now the problem here is that the budget doesn't have funds for financing of this housing, and now we have this problem, recovery program, which is financed by the World Bank, Council of Europe, and we plan that all people that lost access to housing without losing housing, so they just lost access, that we in Ukraine here at this territory, those people have to be provided with all tools necessary, like a privileged rent, credits, housing credits, because just to the budget doesn't have cost for that, and we are searching for the tools. We are going to be very happy when the president signs the document, but we are looking for the tools which would allow us to provide a practical support to people. Now, as for 48, is it a temporary housing? Now, look, Ukraine requires housing reform, and this is basically the first step, the first module. And yes, we have to approve the law 1237, and then accept other laws to improve housing, so that it would have social housing, so that Hromadas had a resource of housing for people who need this housing. If these Hromadas return from, for example, abroad, or return to the place where they lost housing, their housing should be a part of the housing stock. So we cannot say it's a temporary housing, but all depends on how much of this housing we will be able to inventorize, and how we will be able to satisfy these needs, and how we will be able to solve these problems. Now, I want to also say that there are lots of people who come back to occupied territory just because the government believes that they didn't lose their housing, and the government just offers to those people to go back to their occupied territory. Yes, we know this. Yes, but we prepare on the 12th of June in Khmelnytsk, which is going to be called Ukrainians Abroad. At that forum, we are going to discuss how to help people abroad. Then, how can we stimulate the return of those Ukrainians from abroad? And the third, how to prevent migration from Ukraine to Europe, and because people who have housing, and we talk about this all the time, especially at international platforms, that if the support is going to dwindle, then Ukrainians are going to go back or leave their places. They become a resource for the enemy. and we do everything in order to prevent it, to make sure it doesn't happen. And the housing certificates, they have to be financed. It's a key problem. And this law 11/161, it's good, it gives us hope, but how can we implement this hope? That's what we work on. I hope that the president will remember and will sign. Okay, thank you. We have also a representative of NZK. Please join us. Maybe we are also going to have questions from the room. Please join us. Dear colleagues. Hello, can I go now? Svetlana, this question is for you. I represent of charitable foundation Caritas, and we have all over Ukraine many local organizations, and those organizations are ready to join the Commission on Inventory. The question is this: how to do this technically? How can it be done technically? I mean, many of our organizations, they have memorandums about collaboration with local authorities, but on the basis of those memorandums, is that correct? Well, I know about you guys. I know about Caritas. I know about your mission. I think that we are going to share the information. We will share our context, the context of the Commission, for coordination of the activity. And like I said, it is going to be one Google document, and it was going to be used for coordination, and we will decide how to formalize. Whether it's going to be a memorandum, or maybe you're going to have another meeting, and we will formalize this in a working order.
I have questions to Ms. Svetlana. Maybe Ms. Paulo will help us. It's regarding the creation of the register of inventory real estate objects for IDPs. If it provides sharing information between different registers and issuing certificates, if it provides the integration and for sale, and so maybe it is a platform for sale or rent. Of course, I have already said that for this purpose, feasibility study has a crucial role, and within 18 weeks, and we all together with the experts from UNHCR, we will work on the requirements on the feasibility study, on the information system. That's why we are coordinating with all with all available information systems. And the register that has already certificates, so it's an open secret that people use a lot of tools of providing housing. Even those who have already received certificates, they're using temporary housing because it's for free. So to prevent all these situations, we are working on this. Thank you. So it's I'm a coordinator of advocacy, so I want to continue. And as for sharing, so there is the draft law 1231 that provides for the electronic platform. So there is electronic platform for collecting information about sharing sharing housing. So how these two systems will work? So do we have here the exchange protocol? Yes, that's a technical requirement. Thank you very much for underlining this issue. So we will focus on this, and we will ask experts to help us. As much as we talk about people engaged in these activities, so the better our work is. So we have one online questions to Mr. Sergey. So if your agency will elaborate recommendations to the authorities on working on housing issues. I can say so in broader sense. This is the issue of recovery and restoring country, and issue relating to the restoration and rebuilding or repair and renovation. So national agency has already done this work last and the previous year. We were working on the compensations and corruption risks in implementing projects in 6 regions of Ukraine. But this year we continue this work. We are researching in renovation and recovery area. So this work is being done. As for the questions relating to the corruption risks in rent area, so we haven't started this research, not yet, but we have tools to analyze corruption risks, and if it's necessary, we can plan and work on this. And this subject is quite interesting, and it's quite important and current. So we will see the practice. And what signals we will receive from the society. So Mr. Pavlo cited the examples of criminal proceedings here. So if we have so many signals, we will prioritize the analysis of corruption risks in housing area. Thank you very much, Mr. Sergey. I think that's a great initiative, and if the participants of this discussion have some proposals to Mr. Sergey, I think there is a question. So, good afternoon. I have a question. You said that the Google document will be created with the information online regarding the real estate objects. Please tell, is this tool may this tool be used by the public organization, and can we take this information and inform IDPs about possible housing, because we have a lot of requests and we have a lot of hopes, and this is the issue number 1 for IDPs. Maybe you will have another tools so we could use them. Thank you. Thank you for your questions. I understand, but we need to be sure. So the Google document is information that may be confidential regarding owners, for example. As for general public information, it deals with the real estate object, possibility or non-possibility, how to equip, number of seats, and I think that is the next step of our work, how to inform the public. Taras Sherbatyuk, Human Rights Agency, And I have another questions regarding the participation of society in the working of commissions. So this is a difficult issue, complicated issue, because we see that there is lack of information regarding the participation of the society in these commissions, not just public but also IDPs. And I have a question to you, Ms. Svetlana. How can we correct it? How can we inform the public about all possibilities at the regional and district level? Yes, according to the calendar I have mentioned, our term to establish these commissions is 20 May. We have collected the information and we have commissions in all regions, so of 2 regions, but they are about signing necessary documents. As soon as these commissions are created, we will provide information about heads and responsible persons for communicating with the society on our website. So we will take care about providing information about the responsible persons. First of all, these commissions have to publish on their websites of regional administrations and district administrations. They have to publish information about this commission, their phone contacts, access, and the plan of meetings and agendas they have, and the list of real estate objects. The commissions have already been created. At this day, this work must be finished. Within 5 days, they have to publish the relevant information on their websites. So the representatives of societies can be included into these commissions. And I want to ask you to communicate to the regional administration about the importance of our participation, and that we have underlined, emphasized this issue, and this is our aspects of the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, and we want the society to hear us. So these commissions have already been established, and you can get involved into the work of this commission. So please address the appropriate regional administration. So the composition of commissions can be updated. If it is formed, it has been already formed. It doesn't mean that it cannot be changed. So we have a lot of online questions. How IDPs can get involved into this work? They can address. They can go to these authorities, military administration, so you can get involved into this commission. And if it's not, so we need to submit a complaint to the TESCA. Yes, colleagues, do you have any questions? So I have one online question, interesting question, and other online questions. So please, colleagues, colleagues online, please, no worries. We will have frequently asked question session after coffee break. So most of real estate objects of state-owned property which are located in the regions are run by the central authorities. Is it possible so the central authorities would give approvals to help if they could instruct to gain free access to these real estate objects? According to the law, Property Fund of Ukraine provided us with the list of these objects. And of course, regional administrations who have created coordination commissions, they transfer this list to the district level. Of course, commissions have to enter these real estate objects. The main purpose of this law is to provide this inventory not on paper. So if the doors are not open, it means that they have to apply to the regional administration, regional commission, and to the minister, and to submit complaints to the appropriate authorities because it's violation of law, and that will mean responsibility. So I want just to say, so all these objects must be included in all lists, and if representatives of the ministry will not be allowed to these objects, that's responsibility. Do I understand you right, that the property owners must be included into the commission? Yes, that's a requirement of the law. I think that we have answered to this question, so please, we have 15 minutes for coffee break, and at 12 o'clock I ask you to come back. Esteemed colleagues, thank you very much for your activity, but unfortunately I have urgent business, so I must leave. All questions will be processed, and we will give full answers on the website of Ministry for Regional Development, which efforts with international partners. We will conduct separate online meeting to regulate how we can involve technical experts, and I think that within 1 week we will hold this event and we will inform you. And thank you very much once again, and to work. Thank you.
Колеги, ми вже вийшли за наші часові рамки. Я прошу всіх зайняти свої місця в залі, аби ми продовжили. А я в цутері.
Aha. Please take your seats. Take your seats. We are going to continue our work. Now we are going to talk about the support from partners for effective inventarization. This is why I want to invite first part of our speakers, Irina Noga, Caritas Ukraine, Terry Smith, he's from UNHCR, and Anti-Corruption Headquarters. Dear colleagues, please.
Ми знаємо, що
We know that Caritas supported this idea of inventory at the time when the law was not signed yet, at the time, and today Caritas continues to spread information about this law 4080 among their Hromadas and organizations. The floor is yours. Dear colleagues, governmental officials, those who are online, international partners, and all present at this event, thank you for invitation and also for creation of this open platform where we can openly talk about those very important problems that we have today for housing and providing victims with housing as well as new as IDPs. Now, as you said, Alina and Pavle, due to the war, thousands and thousands of people remained without housing. Over 4 million IDPs require not a temporary housing, but a long-term solutions. And this requires strategic approach. This is why Caritas Ukraine focuses not only on humanitarian aid, but on creation of systems that will provide long-term solutions with housing. Today, Caritas Ukraine is a network of local charitable foundations. They work in communities all over Ukraine. They understand their problems and they have a continuous dialogue with those people. We are one of the largest humanitarian actors in Ukraine, as well as strategic partners of Hromadas in solution of housing issues problems. Our task is to provide people not just to get out of the crisis, but move on to life with dignity. Therefore, we provide complex, comprehensive solutions. Psychological support, housing, access to medicine, medical services, also possibilities for volunteering and other areas which you can now see on the slide. All these areas: shelter, wash, monetary supports. We provide humanitarian support. We have a comprehensive approach, and this approach leads to sustainable solutions. And starting from the first days of war, we began this program of provision housing to IDPs, those who happened in collective centers. Only in 2024, we created 18 teams for humanitarian renovations. At the same time, we work on solutions that help IDPs get integrated in Hromadas and not remain avoidant from humanitarian aid. And I would like now to share some practical experience of implementation of our housing programs. In order to find objects for creation of temporary housing, we had to spend from 4 to 6 months of time for communication with communities. And this process included letters of intentions, a list of objects that can be housing for IDPs, technical assessment, communication with communities, feasibility studies, communication with local authorities, and it was such a lengthy process. And we are now talking about people that work and live without a personal housing for 11 years, and we have no right to ignore this problem. This is why we have to do what we can to speed up these processes, to make these processes transparent, and make these services available for everyone. Now, we are creating one unified registrar database which can be used for provision of housing. It's talking about inventory, which is provided by the law 4080. We know all the advantages of this register. We know that donors and investors will have a possibility to get information, and we will no longer have to spend half a year for all these bureaucratic procedures. We will also be able to do feasibility studies. We will be able to prevent corruption risks. Many of military administrations on their official websites, they already have a list of objects which can be used for housing for IDPs and for investments. And those objects, they require additional examination. And Caritas is ready to join commissions of inventory. We already have engineers and teams that work all over Ukraine. Now, on the slide, you see 11 organizations and their representatives which are interested in collaboration on this work. Many communities already have some potential options, such as dormitories, kindergarten schools, hospitals, and communal housing. But there's still no systemic approach, and therefore it is not working. That's one problem. The second problem that I want to share with you is that during my last meeting with communities within the framework of this project on housing, I personally felt this problem with my heart. We saw that not all communities differentiate social housing and housing for IDPs. Only one community member pointed out that we have to use a balanced approach in development of both funds in order to avoid social tensions in communities. This same very community member indicated that their community had already started to enumerate, to list the objects of housing which can be used for IDPs. And this is a very good approach. And in addition to this approach and this experience also emphasizes the importance of educational facilities in formation of these housing stocks in communities. Now, the next logical step has to become automation of distribution of housing, and this will help us ensure transparency, absence of bureaucracy, and I have to say that if you want changes, we have to act together. We have to consolidate all our efforts at all levels, level of the government, international partners, NGO sector, civil society, and today civil society is already a professional sector which is capable of strengthening communities and solve a lot of social problems. No, but we nevertheless we have to teach civil sector and involve them to effective management of this work. Now, Caritas is ready to join to this work for the work of creation of register. We choose to be close to people. We want to act systematically with all stakeholders. We want to have a broad outlook and plan ahead. And the most important thing is that we have to help these people not just to survive, but live with dignity, so that these people could live with dignity. Thank you.
Колеги,
What did we hear? Please, Caritas is helping the inspection commissions and propose their assistance to get involved technical experts to work together with this commission. So please look at the screen. Here you can see contacts, phone contacts of the representatives of Caritas in regions. Please, we will send you these contacts as part of the representative materials to your emails, but please pay attention and take this opportunity to take these contacts and please use this assistance. Irina, thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to the Terry Smith, senior official of the UNCHR.
Bear with me, my Ukrainian is not so good, so I will speak in English. So as a representative of UNHCR, I just want to say that we know how important this process is, and that's why we've tried to engage and participate at every point along the way. We recognize that housing is a concern of everyone and represents a substantial asset to the community, both to the people who live in the properties, and to the community as a whole. But again, its role as an asset cannot overshadow its role as a place of shelter, a human right that is guaranteed in the Ukrainian constitution. UNHCR has been present in Ukraine since 1994, and as an agency that focuses on the protection of people's rights in situations of displacement, some of our key areas of work are and have always been ensuring access to housing and tenure security and meeting emergency shelter needs, especially in the wake of the invasions in 2014 and 2022. Maybe can I do that? Yeah, thanks. So UNHCR works around the country, and as a result, we know the struggles that people in displacement face to secure safe and adequate housing, and we know the sheer scale of the need in Ukraine, both for people currently in Ukraine as well as refugees abroad who plan to return. And again, we're grateful for the opportunity to support the government of Ukraine in the development of a robust housing system that meets the needs of IDPs as well as other vulnerable groups in Ukraine, as mentioned by Caritas. UNHCR is supporting the development of the first phases of the Unified Information and Housing Analytical System as laid out in 4080. Because we know that it's not just what you do, but it's how you do it that matters. And ensuring that the housing management system for the government is well designed and will work to all of the goals elaborated by participants in this workshop, as well as everything that the government is putting into it, to be a system that works for the ministry, that works for the oblasts, for the Ramadas, as well as the people in Ukraine who need to access that housing. It's going to be a complex system. It's going to take time to design. We're working hard to help the ministry to think of all of the elements that need to go into this system in advance to ensure that it's well designed from the beginning. But it is quite complex system, and luckily Ukraine has the capacity in this country to develop enhanced IT technical solutions. So we have good partners here in this country to work with. We also know the public has a vested interest in understanding the resources for housing and where they will end up. Ultimately, the housing that will be created will benefit the community as a whole, as well as some members of the society. But having everyone understand the resources, where they came from, and what's available will benefit everyone. And we need to do that while balancing the privacy of people who will live in these properties and ensuring that they're not stigmatized or identified as social housing recipients, as that can sometimes be negatively perceived by communities as a whole. However, we need to make sure that this is a system that people understand as it's built along the way, and we think that this workshop is an important step in that. It's wonderful to hear that there's 1,000 participants online, although a bit nervous for me, because we know that the interest and engagement in this throughout the country is massive. So as we've been talking about the creation of commissions to oversee and participate in this process, UNHCR stands ready to participate. We're financially not benefiting from this circumstance. We're committing our own resources to make sure that Ukraine has a tailor-made system for this housing system that it wants to have in the future. And we want to ensure that the stakeholders who are engaged in the decisions related to the housing system are made in line with the housing strategy of Ukraine, and that are elaborated and reflected in the system to be applied equitably. Additionally, housing systems respond to the context, and while IDPs now remain the highest priorities in terms of people in need of housing systems, as more housing stock becomes available and other pathways to permanence facilitate durable solutions for IDPs within Ukraine, the priorities and the aims of the housing system will shift over time too. Ensuring that there are processes for review of needs and priorities and iteration of procedures over time will help to ensure the system continues to adapt alongside Ukraine, particularly as it relates to the Ukrainian goal of European accession. Again, UNHCR stands ready to serve and to assist Ukraine as it modernizes its housing system and ensures a post-conflict displacement situation will be resolved. Additionally, we continue to advocate for the creation of a dedicated body at the national level to provide structure and training in the system to the Oblast and Ramada authorities, as well as to relevant members of CSOs who may be involved in implementation, to ensure that the system is used across Ramadas and equally accessed and understood. There is a wide variety of capacities and resources across various communities in Ukraine, ensuring that all are meaningfully able to engage with the system to build out inventory and identify opportunities for rehabilitation and investment will also help to ensure the housing system is not just a benefit to the communities and the best resourced Ramadas. This system will take time to build. It's a complex system, and it will take the engagement and enthusiasm of everyone who's interested in this space, and we look forward to working with the Ministry of Communities and Territories, the Special Commission, and all of our partners here today to making sure that this system is a benefit for Ukraine for years and decades to come. That's all.
Дякуємо, Тері. Колеги, аналогічно із попереднім доповідачем.
Thank you very much. I also want to attract your attention. So here you can see the representative office of the UNHCR. You can find all contacts here. So please, Terry, thank you once again. Please take opportunity to take this assistance from our partnerships. So I wanted to.
Hello, thank you for an opportunity to be here. Our organization, starting from the first days of war, gathered information about destroyed housing, and we created a map of destroyed housing. And of course, the government then joined this initiative, and in 2022 it started the register of destroyed housing, and we actively joined this process as well. We also worked on development of normative base, and one of the conditions, for example, was to our inclusion to the Commission on Destroyed Properties, and allocation of costs funds for renovations. It's for at least, and there should be a share, 10% of representatives of NGOs in these commissions. And when we NGOs have to be in these commissions because we face the situation, a problem that in certain regions their presence was not sufficient and commissions were searching for NGOs to be included. This is why this process today is additional, and of course with the letter from administration you will be able to do this. Now, inventory and creation of this register was a obligatory, and it has to be it has to be joined with other databases and has to be a clear mechanism of provision payments, and inventorized property has to be renovated at the cost of either government or investors, because today unfortunately the data that we have they are closed, and even though the government declares a transparent approach, we unfortunately don't see how much of the housing was destroyed. And therefore, in order to avoid scam schemes and also reporting of all this housing, we recommend to include these issues. And like, as I understand from the answer today, a feasibility study is being planned and the architecture of technical solution is being developed. But let's work on these problems from the very beginning so that you would not face even bigger problems in the future. Next, I am sure we're going to feel resistance from communities, especially in terms of communal property, because that property, the property which is owned by the community, and communal council or community council always tries to use that property. This is why at this stage of inventarizations we can have certain risk, and I call to you all, please join this process. And of course, I recommend that we use all public sites and from which you can understand the status of the housing. And we, as a civil organization, we are interested in inclusiveness and transparency information of this register, and we want to make sure that these all data are transparent. We don't want we don't need to see last names of IDPs, but we hear because they're 4 million, but they are not proved. But there's no proof to that. From minimization, but this is necessary for minimization of corruption risks, and we have to integrate and synchronize all data from different registers in order to avoid those manipulations. And I fully support this initiative. As a member of coalition of NGOs for recovery, we very actively collaborate with the Ministry of Recovery, and we offer certain solutions. And one of the latest cases, anti-corruption cases, was when the government, even though it had funds of donors or involved international support or credit support, is trying to build the housing. For example, the last program was about building new housing for IDPs, and the cost of 1 square meter was 56,000. It's over $1,400 per square. It's at the time when private developers do this work much cheaper for $1,000. square meter. So most anti-corruption things that happen with recovery, they have to do with recovery because it's a chance for them to profit, and therefore to we have to find that housing where we can do repair and recovery. This is going to do this activity cheaper, and acting in this way we will be able to provide a lot more housing. Now, talking about the criteria of selection of housing, I'll tell you about one case. It's the case when the government started this procedure, year recovery, and provided housing certificates. And we are talking here about small repairs. There's also procedure to provide housing certificates, 10 certificates for housing. When a person can take the certificate and go buy a housing, those certificates, 8 of them were for Kiev region and 2 in Donetsk region. So we don't have a criteria of choice for the members of IDPs or victims who are going to receive this property. And we want this process to be very transparent so that it doesn't turn into that mechanism for illegal, corrupt profits. Because we have a queue, a line for housing, and a person who has good connections with the government somehow gets housing faster. This is why we have to, after internalization, there are many other opportunities for abuse and for corruption, and you have to keep that in mind. And the final thing that I want to say is about investors. Unfortunately, the government has not regulated this area. For example, I'm a small investor. I'm an Italian company who wants to build some housing. I'm interested in, for example, I'm interested in recovery of the whole hospital. What shall I do? I come to Ukraine. Who shall I go to? Local administration. Okay, I go there and they say, we have a state process. You have to give all your money to us, and we will organize the process of recovery by our company. And we will recover. Of course, investors are not interested in that. And this is yet another difficulty because we heard scandals with Hostomo, Hromada, when a French investor they demanded a bribe from a French investor so that it would be able to recover a hospital in Kiev region. So we have to remember about this. We have to create good opportunities for investors so that when the register is going to be created for housing, so that they could give a possibility for investors to recover and place and provide housing for as many IDPs as possible, as many victims as possible. And now, what else? That's it. Thank you for this opportunity.
Дякуємо, пане Сергію. Так, у нас буде
Very much. We will have opportunities to ask some questions. Thank you, Mr. Irina. Thank you, Terry, for your speeches. So please take your seats in the hall, and I'm inviting the next guest. After this session, everyone will have opportunity to put some questions. So please, Ksenia Getz, Mr. Orhan Aliyev, and Andriy Zaychenko. So I'm inviting you to our stage to continue our panel discussion regarding the support of the partners. Ms. Ksenia, your advocacy coordinator of the right to protection. So this organization is providing legal assistance to IDPC, and I ask you to give some comments how right to protection is engaged in inventory process. We know that you participated in drafting this law, and now you have been working actively with the colleagues from the parliament. So first of all, I would like to thank the temporary commission for this important discussion. We understand the adoption of law 4080 is one of the first steps to take constant and enduring decisions, not just to overcome this situation, but to integrate IDPs and also to support Ukrainians abroad, and if they take decisions to return to Ukraine. So, as for our organizations, after Caritas, we are one of the biggest humanitarian organizations. We are working in 22 regions of Ukraine, and from the beginning of the war, we have provided assistance to 3 million beneficiaries. So, at the level of communities, we are also very effective. We have been implementing a range of programs of multi-purpose financial assistance, legal first and secondary assistance, then psychological support, then social service program, as we are registered in the appropriate register. So we have been implementing a protection monitoring program. These are experts communicating with the community and re-enhancing the economic possibilities, and where we are working with veterans, IDPs, to enhance, to reinforce their economic aspect. So, and other programs. So, we have a full range of sources for suffering people to overcome the consequences of war and difficult situation. And as for my program, advocacy programs, we have been implementing this program at both international and national levels, and thanks to the assistance of the UNHCR, since last year we have been implementing the local advocacy program, and it relates to different expert aspects. For example, we provide assistance to the community how to identify IDPs, and then identify social service, and we are very active in providing local legal acts. For example, as for social housing, we are working with the communities to adopt a legislative base to create a line to take these houses. We have analyzed that among all communities, 1,435, just 158 communities have social housing, and they have possibilities to distribute these households. And as for the charitable, thanks to charitable foundation, we have we have expanded this housing stock, and over 1,000 IDPs is using this housing stock. So we understand that the initiative to create temporary housing and to create lines must be linked to the implementation of the law 4080, and it's very important to foresee that this system must cover all initiatives, not just temporary, but social housing for IDPs as well. So the adoption and implementation of this law is first constant decision aimed at distributing houses among IDPs, because we know that there are a lot of people who unfortunately have just temporary housing. So this is aimed at developing strategy how to provide all IDPs with social housing. So this initiative is quite important, and our local advocacy experts working in all regions of Ukraine are ready and engaged in supporting temporary housing stocks, and we are implementing the initiatives to support communities to identify the abandoned property and to provide legal assistance in courts. As for the procedure, it's very important to understand that the effective implementations will be effective, and it depends on the coordination. This coordination must include all stakeholders, start from the ministry and till to IDPs. And I would like to draw your attention that we need to think about criteria which identify the real estate objects to be rebuilt, re-equipped, and to understand the methodology of these criteria will ensure the implementation of this law. And it's very important to understand that communities have some efforts how to identify these objects, and there are some initiatives how to create these or those registers. And it's very important to understand what is already done in order to avoid doubling. So there are some lists, there are some registers, and it's very important to examine it and to combine our efforts. And it's very important to realize the risks and how to engage social society, and we have to elaborate general rules for all communities in order to provide unique approach. And I would like to raise the issue of the legal status of the decisions of commission, because commissions are just advisory and their conclusions have no legal power. And now we must understand what decisions must be taken so the decisions of commissions would be legal. And it's very important to understand that we need to think, and Ms. Svetlana has already mentioned it, what legal consequences are for property owners, and if owners give his consent to include his property to this register, if he can refuse. So we must find this balance between public interest and protection of property. And the last, I want to say that we have a lot of tools. We have foundation housing stocks. We have 1,000 social objects, and we have mortgages. We have compensation procedures, and it's very important to combine all these tools so they could be coordinated and interoperable. Thank you very much for this event. Thank you for the organization. I will be glad to answer the questions. Thank you, Ksenia, for these recommendations, for these ideas we need to think about. And thank you for your recommendations. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Aliyev. He is head of Habitat for Humanity in Ukraine.
I also want to say a big thanks to people who really made a big effort and progress in passing the law 4080. That's really, really huge effort, and we are in support of this process. But on behalf of Habitat, I would like to say that we have become very operational in Ukraine starting 2022, providing different parts of Ukraine through shelter support. But they made a decision last year that we have to also very intensively work in the area of policy, so we can also address systemic changes and also systemic reform. So many people talked here about the impact of people. I here want to focus on infrastructure. So to date, it's about 2.4 million housing units have been reported to be damaged or destroyed. This is about 15% of entire country's housing stock. And another thing is very important is that the war is not only kind of affecting the economy from infrastructure point of view, but also having very systemic backwards. What I mean here is that it's very important to understand that around 80% of apartment units in Ukraine were built in before 1991 during Soviet Union, which also with no major renovations since. This means that most of the buildings are poorly insulated, they are inefficient and rapidly deteriorating, which makes residents very asset poor. And according to our estimates of Habitat in Ukraine is that we have found out that up to 70% of residents are energy inefficient, which also make many people to spend huge amount of money out of the pocket on utility cost. And it's interesting too, we also kind of constantly consulting with the government, local municipalities, private sector as well. And it's a quite well-known series that there is a very high home ownership level in Ukraine, above 95%. But that is a reason, probably one of the reasons that so rental housing, or especially social rental, was never developed properly in Ukraine. And therefore it really created big housing stock crisis. Here in Ukraine, what we also found out is that it's not only about it, but also there is no capacity of municipality to even deal with such a housing stock management or funding of it. This is a huge thing. It's not all about what we do on a policy level, but it's also how well we are prepared to invest in the capacity building of local authorities. So what I'm saying is that we are at the moment piloting a project in Ivano-Frankivsk and Kalush town. We are converting kindergarten into social house, but where we see biggest problem is not the construction, but more about what's next. Whether that social house could be easily converted to the rental options for people could pay for, and also who's going to manage it. So there are so many legal, regulatory challenges we face at the moment that really creates for us, big demotivation as well. And as Habitat, we are globally known affordable housing institution. So we worked in Central and Eastern Europe more than 50 years, and that we are also kind of channeling the knowledge from there to Ukraine as well. But what we have understood, especially in coordination with the Ministry of Development, and probably Natalia Kozlovska also mentioned it, is that we want at the moment to understand how we can really address this housing stock crisis. And the biggest and the most important thing to create this housing stock. There are two ways. One way is to find out how many vacant public buildings are there. A second is about private residents. So we don't really talk about the second option. We at the moment started, probably soon they're going to be tendered by Habitat, is to find out how we can assess and classify vacant properties in Ukraine. I mean public ones, not private ones. This will give us a kind of a picture about how many of them are easily convertible. what kind of resources we need to invest, and also what is a kind of average cost for type of things for different investors. And the reason we're doing it's not only about just for looking for donors, but it's also very important so how we can also encourage private sector to invest in such a sector. This is very, very important how we link. So as Habitat, we have already done in many countries in the past. So we've done it in Hungary, in Romania, in Poland, in UK, and this really gives us the confidence that we have already developed a toolkit, and that toolkit definitely needs to be adapted to Ukraine context, and then we can really go ahead with piloting it. So the reason that why it's very important for us having housing stock at the moment, especially focusing on social housing, there are three reasons. One, it is very cost effective. Second, it is quicker than the new construction. And third, it really supports local recovery by strengthening municipal and regional administration in housing sector. So in that sense, it's very important for us what's going to come out of this research. So we have to think about how we can unlock the public assets for social good and also bring the capacity of the municipality or the private sector to manage it. So as Habitat, I would like to say that we are kind of very actively engaged in this process from the bottom, but also at a national level, working with the government. And our priority is to really make sure that whatever we build, it will be very affordable, sustainable, and inclusive. And that transition is very important for the people that how it starts. So our position is that future for IDPs in Ukraine is rental. And we have to really have to focus on how we're going to build this more in a sustainable manner. So I'm going to pause here. Thank you very much. I'm really very delighted to be with you.
Дякуємо, пане
Thank you. Indeed, there are so many questions online. We will try to answer those questions later. We have Dmitro Ivanov with us today. He's the head of Dobrobat. The floor is yours. Hello, dear colleagues, partners, all stakeholders. It's a very important topic that we are discussing. Thank you for the opportunity to present our wonderful organization. And today, I want to thank all of you for the expertise that you provide, that we provide, we all provide to our people, to our country. Some people did develop register. Other people did something else. But we visit the sites of explosions and destructions like before. And now we don't just go visit the sites after destructions, but we also implement infrastructural projects and to make sure that we don't have a lot of IDPs. We do fast recovery, and it's a very important question that you raised, and I believe that altogether we can solve this problem. Using best practices, we have heard quite a bit. Our organization is just for 3 years, but in the States, we are called a small habitat. We also want to be like Habitat, and we want to use their practices and and the international practices. And we've heard that rental is the way to go. Of course, our team is ready to we're ready to join and will join to all these very important issues. And of course, we are present in 14 regions of Ukraine at the moment, in 127 communities, and we are ready to join the Commission and provide our expertise and looking into the future. We are going to do the inventory, but in my opinion, we also communicate with Korean partners, and they also have very interesting experience. Smart villages. Smart villages is our country is agrarian, agricultural, and these smart villages, they can be developed. Can be a wonderful support to our economy and housing for people, because first of all, we have to and determine where people are going to live, but there's also another issue where people are going to work. And here again, we have to study the best practices, and the meetings like this and discussions like this, of course, are very important. They are very serious, and our team. Can you the next slide? Can you show the next slide? This is where we are at the moment, and many of our colleagues. We work in over 120 communities, but we increase our presence in Ukraine. And on this slide, we leave our contacts. You can always get in touch with us. Maybe someone online would like to get in touch with us. Over here in QR code, there is a questionnaire, and you can ask us any question, and our team will certainly respond to those questions. We also have a chat bot, and we are ready to join. And these are fundamental things that have to be resolved today. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you for your work, dear colleagues. Please take note of this QR code because we were thinking how we can share all our contacts. We have many online listeners, and we will also be happy to help you in all networks, and we will also spread all this information. Okay, representative of GO, Andriy Zaychenko, is also with us. Please, Andriy, thank you for an invitation. I will tell you today about our organization and what we do, what we can bring to the table. And what we do, we provide support to IDPs, and we also provide support to the army and front. Our organization was created in the end of 2022, but as of today, we provided support to over 210,000 IDPs. We all provided thousands of legal consultations. We also provide support to military personnel and the front. We provided to the front over 200 cars, vehicles, and we provide legal consultations on all kinds of issues. We have we have 28 hubs working in all over Ukraine. The most painful problem for IDPs now is the absence of housing, and they have almost no money to rent housing. And this mechanism that we are discussing today is very important. We do have to solve this problem with housing. We are happy to hear about the creation of these communities. And NGOs will certainly join these commissions, also charitable foundations and representatives of those. It gives us an opportunity to join the process and ensure control and monitoring. Ukraine is ready to work actively in solution of those problems. We are going to inform about all possible housing opportunities. We collaborate with local administrations. We also do advocacy and monitoring. We continue to advocate rights of IDPs. We do monitoring. We advocate for effective implementation of the laws. Our NGO is a symbol for IDPs. IDPs see us, they hear us. We are present in Instagram and Facebook. We have over 2,000 subscribers, and all of them are IDPs, and we are ready to join. We are ready to work. So please get in touch with us. Our contacts are going to be shared as well. Now, as for the bill of law, informational support of IDPs. we have to provide the proper information and education to all IDPs about existing laws and execution and implementation of laws. Also, I want to note that inventory is not going to be enough, it's not going to be sufficient. We have to create comprehensive state programs for housing for IDPs. Of course, it's very hard to provide housing for all IDPs, and budgetary and state budget is not enough. And for this reason, we have to involve all partners possible, international partners in the first place. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope for a fruitful collaboration. Glory to Ukraine. Andrew, thank you. Dear colleagues, please take your place. I'll just ask Ksenia to stay here, and we are going now. Now, for those who watch us online, we have published a link to all materials. So please, we have 700 online viewers. All materials you will be able to find if you click on the link. Now, I invite all of us to a common application. Svetlana Kremser, Charitable Foundation Verkhovna, Yevgen Maksitenko, Charitable Foundation, and Yaroslav Taranets, Charitable Fund, Schid SOS. Yaroslav was here, but looks like he's gone. Yaroslav is gone. But what we're going to do now, we're going to do a common Zayava application. The Institute of Housing that I represent, Ukrainian Helsinki Association, Rokada, 10th of April. These are the largest organizations that work for IDPs. Okay, the common application.
So, joint statement of public association on the need for public control for the effective implementation of Law 4080. We, representatives of civil society organizations working in Ukraine and concerned with the protection of the rights of internally displaced persons, address to the international community, partners, donors, as well as authorities and local governments, to consolidate efforts for the effective implementation of the provisions of the Law of Ukraine 4080. The Law 4080 has potential to create a systematic and long-term solution to providing housing for IDPs. At the same time, to put it into practice, there is a need for the effective, transparent, and constant communication between all stakeholders. All Ukrainian inventory of real estate objects that may be used as housing for IDPs can be only launched if there is effective public control. Such inventory should provide for the independent monitoring, the publication of data, and involvement of public representatives and activists in each stage of the process, from the collection of information to decision making. We emphasize that active participation of public initiatives, civil society organizations, and international partners is crucial to mitigate corruption risks and provide transparency in searching real estate, its registration, inspection, reconstruction, and further exploitation. Financing these initiatives is vital for transparent, accountable, and fair inventory process, selection, restoration, and further use of real estate objects for the needs of IDPs. We urge our international partners to provide Ukraine with assistance to effectively implement the provisions of Law 4080 and to provide special support for Ukrainian public organizations that have potential to ensure independent public control over the implementation of Law 4080 as a guarantor of public interest. Thank you very much for your attention. We will address with this joint statement to the biggest international donors, partners, and we will elaborate the mechanism of implementing public control so that inventory could be transparent and effective. And now I would like to give the floor to my colleagues. Please, if you have something to add. I will not introduce you, so please. First of all, thank you very much to the Housing Institute, and in the context of the implementation of Law 4080, we must understand the main principles. I would like to say flexibility, expertise, transparency, and participation of vulnerable groups. And we, as the representatives of public civil society, we may ensure it. So I urge the civil society to get involved in this work, and I ask our partners to help. Thank you very much. So let's sign it. Mr. Taras, so please take this initiative. I would like to add the Ukrainian Helsinki group is engaged in protecting rights of the affected persons since 2014, and we have been protecting and we continue to protect the population, considering the war crimes affected by the Russian Federation. And in the context of this draft law, we were engaged and we will be engaged in protecting housing rights of the affected civil population, and we are going to work with the state authorities, local authorities, to implement this law, and we will help civil society at the local level so that they could be engaged in this process, so they could exercise their rights for the involvement and participation, and we support this initiative. And I repeat once again, we will work with all stakeholders so that everything could take place. Thank you very much, Mr. Taras. Thank you, colleagues, for your work on this joint statement. And we have a lot of work to do to ensure the effective inventory of real estate objects for providing housing of IDPs. So this is the end of this session. So please take your seat in the hall. So this is the end of our official session, and now we have some time to answer the questions, including online questions. So I will read online questions. Indeed, there are a lot of questions, and I have follow-up questions. Who will answer these questions? So I propose this in the format what, when, where. There are international experts. So the questions I will read, maybe I could answer, maybe representatives of special commissions or the representatives of authorities. So I ask everyone to answer to these questions. So micros are ready, questions are ready. Let's go.
The first question, this examination, how will we include the territories which are under fire or where battles take place? Anybody who wants to answer? It's a very painful question. And yes, I understand that many people are concerned about that. And you have some. Look, if you send your request, the commission is created at the administrations. If you want to address military administrations, and they are the ones who are supposed to think about safety. And if you talk about inventory, safety issues, they will make a decision whether they are going to go to the site or not. Sergei, thank you. Now, colleagues, anybody else would like to? If no, we are moving to the next question. I'll say a few more things. Indeed, safety is very important, and the way Yevidnolonia program works, we work according to the order 111, where we can do on-site examinations, where we can do it and where we cannot do it. Same here. We are not going to risk human lives, and if there's a risk of fire, so we're going to use this mechanism. So this for inventarization. Thank you. Thank you, Pavlo. The next question is to Natalia Rebi. Hello, Natalia. What to do with abandoned property? The property which was not yet absorbed by the communal property. I think the question is not about the procedure, because procedure is, we know about the procedure, but what shall we do with it? Of course, we have to document all this. And the next meeting of the Commission, when this property is going to be included into communal property, you have to document this in the system, by the system, and reflect all the changes in the system. Or if the status, it relates not just to abandoned property, but to all the other things as well. Now, next question. Tanya is asking, what about the town of Vuhledar? We've lost everything. Why my state doesn't even confirm the fact that my house was destroyed by a bomb? Well, I think we have already partly answered this question. Now, what about information? Will this information be available? The answer, we already answered this question. The system that we are creating, online map, it is going to be correlated with all open registers, and there P and other, and there's also another question here about the TRIM system. Again, the data is going to be integrated into the system, and all this data is going to be brought up automatically. Another question, what criteria of rent for passing of real estate for IDP, and the purpose? What's the purpose? What are there any limitations? The criteria of a renter to pass real estate for IDPs. Anybody wants to answer? It's not I don't quite understand this question. It's a specific question, but if anyone would like to comment on this question, then please go ahead. It's a good question. It's if someone has a housing which is rented, the possibility to enter this house into this register, and then or the owner will be able to receive a rent from the IDP who lives in that building. We have separate citizens who have, so we can just, it's a good initiative, but it's indeed that's something that we have to do 10 steps ahead, or 5 years ahead, in 5 years into the future. this because today we just begin to think about social rent. It doesn't exist yet in Ukraine. The only thing we have now is subsidy. And when we use private market of housing which are already available and private owners may pass their housing to IDPs and receive compensation from the government is going to pay the rent. And in that decree of Ministry of Social Policy, they actually provide criteria for the renter. But this issue is not regulated yet. Just the information about the subsidy. It's decree number, we don't remember the number, 12 something. This information was renewed in April, and in April, a possibility for legal entities was allowed into this program, but without compensation of taxes. And the question which was asked here is that we have to develop criteria. We talked about this from the very beginning, criteria to assess a possibility to include those options into informational analytical system, so that these criteria would allow us to include this housing into system and pass this housing for the use by IDPs, so they have to be reflected all these criteria. But it would be good to make those criteria mandatory. Next question from Daria again. How the rent is going to be determined for IDPs? Again, we have this subsidy and there's a formula for calculation of rent besides this mechanism, but the mechanism is not in place yet. But Alexander from UNHCR will tell us in detail. I just thought about this decree number 305. It's about a rent of educational facilities, and there is a mechanism of calculation of a rent. There are few actually mechanisms. It's about state or communal property. It's about communal property. Thank you. The next question is from Eugenia. My house is destroyed. We would like to build a new house, but there is no mechanism to get a land plot for free. And another question she has, in addition to this, governmental organization has an intention to get the land plot for building housing for IDPs, and so this person cannot receive a piece of land for free. So in order to build a new house there. I also know an expert. I know an expert who could commend this. Alexander, what can you say? I like this format that we use. Thank you for letting me an opportunity to speak. There are a number of new answers, and the difference is that the simplest approaches that exist today, I will start from governmental organizations. It's collaboration with communal enterprises, which have additional land and investment mechanism. I remember Habitat of Humanity was doing something like that, but there are some challenges there. For example, you cannot change the purpose of this housing. Also, the housing which is already built and is property rights problems, and the mechanism to house people there and to enter those into housing stock is difficult because the land plots, it has to be decided with a community. I'll tell you other thing. Given that we have a war condition, there is a possibility to get a social rent of land plots, and then it can be changed, a purpose of this land can be changed, and they can receive a right to build a house there. Then a piece of land which has another purpose as a housing can be passed to legal entity, but for this a local advocacy at the level of community has to be carried out, and treaties and the contracts have to be read carefully. And there's also a third option, construction cooperatives. As far as I know, there's no right, we don't have right to create those cooperatives, but in general we have a good chance, because inventory of real estate, even if it's just a foundation, it's also a chance to build a new house. We should not discard those foundations. But it's a potential piece of land for construction. It's a possibility. It's something that can be used for geo and physical persons. And there's also a fourth option about temporary housing and simplified procedure without any change of purpose. In register, there are already 300 requests and or petitions, and so it can be used as well as an option. Oksana, please. From our experience in the town of Kalisz, the land issue is sometimes very painful.
Земельні ділянки, на яких є
It's necessary to draw attention to the first stage, to the information about land plot. If there is no information about land plot, just only object, kindergarten or any other object, investor will have no possibilities to take decisions about the possibility to invest in this object, because he does not understand the purpose of this object. And if it's possible to build houses there, I'm not going to talk about temporary houses, but we have to draw attention to this issue. And it concerns, and this information about every object must be in the informed system. Ms. Oksana, colleagues, there must be one more, there is one more question. How will you identify the land plots which must be inspected? What does it mean? I will tell differently. Such institutions which is planning investments needs protection, because these questions are too narrow. So we talk about special zones where you can't build residential houses. There are a lot of rules as provided by the land code. So first of all, you need consultative protection from different expert institutions, maybe even from the TSK. Only after the examination, we have to understand if it's economically right and possible to do it in this location. So I'm not sure that every community has qualified personnel. I think that only the whole country can have no more than 20 experts. So next question, it's not rather question, but statement. Mr. Baranovsky says that he's afraid that in practice the structural units of social policy will ensure these commissions. So we'll put it without any remarks. Then Ms. Valeria asks if any draft laws will be adopted concerning the dacha and garden houses in the occupied territories, which is considered as abandoned by the aggressor. I think that we already mentioned about it, about the property located on the occupied territory. It's draft law 13136. This draft law stipulates the comprehensive inventory on the occupied territory, identifying the destroyed objects and to give possibilities to people to receive certificates. And this law is covering the period from 2014, so we urge to adopt this draft law as soon as possible, so all housing and other property belonging to private sector is covered by this draft law, and we will urge to put it into agenda and voting. Thank you. Thank you. And next question. Nina says, IDPs must be included to the Commission because we know how many abandoned houses are there in the cities. And we are communicating how to be a member of this Commission. We have already said this. It's very difficult because there are a lot of IDPs, and I propose to everyone who is listening to us. So IDPs Council, so the representative of city or village self-government authorities must be included into the Commission, and of course IDPs Council, and we will require that IDPs Council will be represented. And this is the case when the government will hear the IDPs words through IDPs Council. So I urge you to use this tool. And if there is no IDPs Council, there are 400,000 communities around Ukraine, and they have IDPs Council. And if there is no such council, you may establish it in towns, villages, and cities. So, good day. So, just let me know. So, this commission must prioritize these real estate objects, or they may choose vulnerable groups. You mean inclusion? You mean inclusion into the commission? Oh, we didn't submit it to the parliament. So the community has right, but of course the commission will take decisions, heads of the commissions or heads of the regional administration, or your initiative, or when you ask to be included into this commission, just describe your activity, explain why you can represent the community. If just IDP will say, I'm IDP, I want to get involved, so you must understand that it's impossible. But if you worked in the area of protection of IDPs, just show why we should include you. So we will use parliamentary control if you are a voice in your region, if you have been working, and if you are a very active public organization. Thank you, colleagues. We will go to the next questions. There is a crucial issue regarding the ex-combatants and the first internally displaced. They do not receive compensation. Yeah, that's a very painful issue. I hear it from everywhere. There are special programs, and if they're working, only the Ministry of Defense can answer. If I'm not mistaken, they have programs for veterans, and there are programs common for everyone. Mortgage program, there is interest rate reduced interest rate according to YEOSELA program, temporary program, and there are some other programs. Yuri Sidinkov propose, it's not a question, it's a proposal, to technically inspect, to ask only experts from IDPs, because local, especially in Kiev, will augment the price. And then Cheska asked regarding the IDPs from the city which is not occupied, but Yedir doesn't receive application. How can we get the certification? I think that it is the question to the ministry, to the department, to the Ministry for Reconstruction and Development. It's the Donetsk region. It's this issue relating to certification year відновлення. So we can spread information across the whole territory. You see, DIA, application DIA doesn't receive the application. It's a specific case. We should to understand it. So there is a practice. So in the hostility zone, if a territory is not occupied, but there is no access to the register, you have to do it manually. You have to request Ministry of Digitalization, and we had problems with the register for 6 months. Maybe this is the reason why. So what should he do? He needs to apply to the Commission. So the Commission should ask the Ministry for Development and Ministry of Digitalization. So next question. So temporary house. Temporary houses for IDPs, no compensations for big family with many members, with the children. It's not fair. It's very difficult to comment justice, but reform of digitalization will be able to identify not only just issues, but any other real estate issues. Good question. How will private real estate objects be used if owners are abroad and they don't know what is going on? Well, nobody can force property owner to provide information. Only he can do it, and he have to have this possibility to cancel his consent. Maybe if he changes his mind to transfer this house or to renovate, But so such objects may be identified by the representatives of the civil society. They may ask them and recommend them to provide information in this to enter this information into the system. There is one comment I want to read. This law goes nowhere. Even Khrushchev understood that people needed their own house, not just barracks. I think that is a question, I hope. First of all, I don't understand where people thinks that this law is ensure temporary houses. When I hear house for IDPs, people associate it with a temporary house. They even don't understand the mechanism behind this definition. Housing for IDPs, inventory of real estate objects. This law provides for the inventory of all real estate objects in our country, including land plots, residential and non-residential building. So then, after inventory, the community has to take decision what to do with this property and how to transfer it to the IDPs. It may be temporary decisions and temporary houses. It's one of the mechanisms which is used by thousands of Ukrainians, but it may be social housing. I can't say name social house temporary house because it's long-term decision, it's usage. And as for transfer to ownership, our international partners provide programs with the right to purchase, and we have some mechanism here in Ukraine, and international partners are discussing it, and I ask you to understand correctly and identify this legislative initiative correctly. Next question. And there are a lot of questions from Tatiana Gapon. Law of Ukraine on displaced person, internally displaced person, means that they have all rights. Is it good to give IDPs houses and not to renovate and repair those flats? And because it's more expensive and it takes a lot of time to provide all technical services, and it takes too long to integrate into the territorial community. We always say that there is no one pill that may decide all problems. There is no unique housing decision. So we have only one mechanism, we can use it, and that will help us to provide all people with a housing. And every person is a unique case. If it is, if he has a job, if he has plans to live in this community, maybe he wants to remove, maybe he has a remote work, maybe he wants to live in different territorial communities. We always say about the integration, but we don't ask people if they want to integrate into this community. So each case is a unique case. So there must be a toolkit and must be adopted to different groups of people. Good afternoon, Evgeny Moskutenko, 10 April. There is a question about certificate. Why certificate, not an inventory process? There is an answer in this question because not everyone can receive certificate because they have had to have some property that was damaged. We know that not all IDPs which came to controlled territories can have compensation. So this mechanism is a plus for those who were not owners, and he can provide, he can exercise his rights for housing in this. So we were informed that Japan and Finland are ready to invest to housing for IDPs, but the only condition is abstention of the state authorities to sign memorandum. They need guarantees, state guarantees, but there are no legal mechanisms. I think that we need to understand more what's going on, what interference she's talking about. So if you hear us, you can give us more details to understand the situation. It's very interesting. And we have next question. Temporary social housing is waste of money. In this amount provided by 4080, we IDPs don't need it. We must be owners of housing. So let me answer. First of all, temporary social housing has these are different mechanisms. Second, not everyone can be owner. People can just use it at reduced interest rate, and this mechanism is quite effective in different regions of the world. And I just want to cite one example. We have a program, Держмолодь Житло. In 2024, this program was used by 500 families. We think that is a step forward, but if this is the pace, so it takes 1,400 years to provide people with housing. So we must understand we have to use all suitable mechanisms, and everyone has to choose mechanism. The only thing is how to expand this toolkit. So next question, and we are going to finish. Alexander Dmitruk, Chernihiv, head of the architectural agency, head of the commission. Where can we get money to process documents and to renovate? Colleagues have already asked about it. If local budget didn't accumulate these funds, so here we had representatives of Caritas, UN, Habitat for Humanity, Dobrobat. Everyone proposed their own assistance and support. So please ask them. Look for the funds from charitable foundations. I'm sure there will not be problems. Legal issue here. How is a state-owned real estate object may be transferred to residential building? How can we cope with it? How to renovate? How to distribute surface if there is standard for service and no updated standards for building? Does anyone want to answer this question? It's quite technical and legal questions. I think that it's better to address and to seek legal consultancy regarding this issue. I'm not sure that colleagues are ready to answer.
Thank you for all the materials. And let's Igor thanks us for taking care of this militarization. Dear colleagues, on this positive note, I recommend that we end our workshop. We are going to have a little bit more time to speak offline. I thank you. Thank you all people that joined us today. I'll just tell you that the ministry told us today that very soon they are planning another meeting which is going to be organized by the ministry to work with Commission to answer all questions. This is going to be a continuation of our meeting. I understand that you will have a lot to think after today, and about inventarization, transparent inventarization, and we are going to continue our work in this direction. Thank you all and have all a very good day. Goodbye.